Hi, everyone. This is Julie Markert. I just want to give people a couple of minutes to join the webinar, but thanks for joining us today. I'm excited to be talking to you about quality programs and how to either design a new one or start a program or take a program that you already have and start from scratch. So I'm going to give it about one more minute and then I'll go ahead and get started. All right, so if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the chat bar. We will be monitoring the questions and I'll try and address those as we go through the slides. It'll probably take us about 20 minutes or so to go through the slides, and then we will have a message from one of my colleagues, Terry, and then we'll open it up for questions. So today we're going to go through what you need to get started when reviewing a quality program. There are 6 basic questions that we have. You can see them here on the slides. I'm not going to read through them because I'll address them one by one as we go through the slide deck. And I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm an account manager at Athenium Analytics. I am working with some of the top 10 carriers in insurance right now, and I'm helping them set up their QA programs, enhance their QA programs, and move their QA programs into the future. I have worked with Liberty Mutual. I spent 13 years there working in various areas. I worked in distribution analytics, product, quality claims analytics, and then I ended up in strategy where I really focused on their QA programs and vendor management. So to get started, you'll probably hear me say this a lot, but one of the most important things in a QA program is having a clear, well-defined mission before you start your design phase. One of the biggest mistakes that I have seen over and over again when designing a QA program is you ask people, oh, why do you have a QA program? And either they have no idea what you're talking about, or they look at you with this blank stare, or every single person in their room has a different answer. So making sure that you have a clear, well-defined set of goals or mission before you engage in a project moving forward is super important to the program. It's also very important to make sure that you've involved like the right support system for your quality program. So whether it's a chief claims officer, your chief underwriting officer, the lines of business that you're working with, some of the senior leaders there, and then compliance and internal audit. If you have their support and buy-in and their mission is your mission, the chances of having a successful quality program will increase exponentially. Another common area that I think tends to get overlooked is having a special team dedicated to doing the work. You can't tackle it all with just one person. Once you start the design process, you'll realize that there are so many little tiny pieces to it that it really does involve a lot of subject matter experts to do the work adequately. Also doing regular check-ins with your stakeholders. This is another big mistake people make when designing a quality program is not checking in on a frequent enough basis so they get so far along in the project and senior leadership or one of your stakeholders is like, wait, that's not really what we thought we were supposed to be doing. So making sure that you're checking in regularly and that you're all on target. Right? So I'm going to say it again. Before you design a program, you must understand any goals, missions, and define the quality program. If you forget to align your quality program with the strategic goals of either the company or a specific line of business that you're working with, the chances of actually having a successful quality program really go down quite a bit. If you aren't speaking the same language and looking towards achieving the same outcome, then there's really no need to have a quality program. Really, quality should be set up and designed by the field or senior leadership, and then the QA program goes in and holds people accountable to those goals. Another important key factor is, again, the buy-in from senior leadership. Accountability on a quality program is always one of the most critical components to success, especially in the beginning, because quality programs change often, especially in insurance companies. You'll find that people are constantly changing their ideas, or they have a new idea that they think is going to work. But unless you have the buy-in from the leadership that's going to hold you accountable to those specific goals or that specific quality program, then it's going to be really difficult to get any traction and momentum in getting the field to buy in and understand why the quality program is there and why you're doing what you're doing. So one of the next questions you should ask yourself is, why do you need a quality program? So senior leadership, again, like I said, they really should be the ones defining why they want a quality program. So are they doing it just to fulfill attestation or compliance requirements? Are they looking for a return on investment from opportunities that they find? Will you be using it to provide coaching and development opportunities back to individual contributors, or will you be using it to identify CI or continuous improvement opportunities? The reason why it's really important to understand what the true purpose of your quality program is because it really changes the questions that you're going to be asked and how you actually implement and run your quality program. So again, going back to having a clear, well-defined goal is critical to the successful design. Another common problem that I see in quality programs is that nobody really is defining what good looks like. And really what good looks like should come from your leadership, whether it be at the senior leadership level or at your line of business level. The quality program cannot define what good is. What it really is there to do is hold people accountable to the work that they set the standard on. So if the quality program is saying, hey, this is what good looks like, then nobody's really bought into it. Whereas in the other methodology where the field or leadership defines what good looks like and QA holds you accountable to it, QA always has the ability to go back and say, hey, we're just doing what you asked us to hold you accountable to. And that really changes the dynamics in the discussions when you're having conversations on what good looks like. All right. So the next question you should ask is, what exactly is the quality program expected to deliver? So attestation, do you have to do this for, financial requirements? Are there certain compliance or internal audit requirements? I mean, departments of insurance are almost always providing some sort of guidelines. So are you just benchmarking to those? Do you have vendor agreements that you're looking for when you're doing reviews? Are you looking for individual contributor feedback? Are you looking at CI opportunities? Or are you looking for training or product opportunities? So as you start thinking about what the program is expected to deliver inputs on, it will really help you design a comprehensive program. So quality programs can really be pretty simple and straightforward and just have a few questions, or they could be extraordinarily complicated and basically be a checkbox for every single process that you have. And you can certainly build an all-inclusive program, but if that's what you're looking to do, then you really need to be prepared to invest time and resources to do it the right way. So depending on the size and complexity of your organization, you're looking at somewhere of 6+ months just to design and plan, and then you'll spend several months after that fine-tuning and making modifications as you go. versus something like a simple attestation or compliance QA program where you're really just looking to check a couple of boxes. You could probably get something like that up and running in a very short period of time, and perhaps even automate some of the processes depending if you have the right technology. All right. The next question that you're going to need to ask is, who will do the work? So depending on who's doing the work is going to depend on what your outputs actually are. So if you have a central auditing team, it should be a pretty robust set of data that's fairly neutral, right? And you could probably trust it to make business decisions on, versus having frontline managers do the work who have invested interests in their teams, and maybe that's not the best information to make business decisions on. You can also have combinations of both. As you think about who is doing the work, some other things that you need to think about and consider as you go through your design process is calibration, right? If you're calibrating a central audit team, it's probably pretty easy to get them in agreement. You give them a set of guidelines to follow, they can hold you accountable to it. But if you're trying to calibrate between what the field or frontline managers and central audit are doing to try and get both of their responses aligned, the calibration process is going to take a lot longer. Calibration is one of the ways that you can really earn confidence with the reviewees and or stakeholders. So if you show that either your central audit team is very calibrated and it doesn't matter if Sally does the review or Joe does the review, the chances of them coming up with the same result is fairly high. That's going to increase the buy-in to your program versus, you know, not having a calibration process and everybody knowing that Sally is easier on the reviews than Joe is, so they're probably not going to buy in or hold the results to a certain level of standards that you might be looking for. And then as you start thinking about, okay, who's doing these reviews, who are we getting the results from, thinking about how the data is being used from team to team. So I briefly touched on this just a little bit ago, but if you're looking for like office health or, you know, line of business health, if you're looking for opportunities and trends at that level, it's probably better to get results from a central auditing team, simply because they're going to be neutral. There's no need for them to inflate or not tell it like it is. Versus frontline managers who, you know, maybe want to soften the blow to their employees. They don't necessarily always want to provide feedback where there's an opportunity. They're trying to point out the positive as well. Another thing you need to think about when you're thinking about who's doing the work is the frequency of the reviews, right? So probably one of the things that I've heard most often, especially from frontline managers, is that we do too much. Like, we can't do these reviews and do our jobs and give coaching and feedback and all of this other stuff at the same time. Like, so think about how frequent the review process is, especially when frontline managers are involved. But the other reason that that's important is because if you are not doing the reviews all that often, so maybe you're only doing them quarterly, or maybe you're only doing them a couple of times a year, or even once a year, you know, that data is going to be the data that you're making business decisions with for however long that time frame is. Or if you're looking to see if things are getting better or worse, like how exactly are you going to track whether or not you're making a significant difference based on the opportunities you identified and tried to solve for. Another item to think about when you're considering who will do the work is if you are using these reviews for individual contributor feedback, what's the statistical validity of the reviews? Because if, you know, Joe does, you know, closes 1,200 files a year, but you're only reviewing, you know, 20 files on him every year, is that really a good sample to base a performance rating on in that market? So you're going to be able to you're going to have to address these things as you go through and get buy-in for your QA program, and also to improve the traction that you have when rolling it out. If you do not have answers to these types of things, you will meet a lot of resistance as you try to roll these programs out. So another item that you're going to have to think about is, what role will quality play in the organization? So is quality going to be something that your whole organization is embracing, or are you just going to be policing certain processes and outcomes? I've seen a lot of companies moving towards quality-related observations. So maybe they're not doing full file reviews on underwriting files or claims files. Instead, they're doing observations on day-to-day work, which ties in to the overall big picture. This is especially prevalent in lean organizations, where they basically live and breathe quality in everything that they do. So whatever it is that you end up deciding, you'll need to think about how the culture of your organization is going to have to adapt to this new quality program. So I'm going to bring senior leadership back into this again. Change management is critical, and their support and promotion is going to be the number one way that you get leverage and buy-in from everybody else. Because if it's important to your chief claims officer or chief underwriting officer, I guarantee you that quality is going to be important to everybody else. If they couldn't care less about it, then you're probably not going to get a lot of buy-in or support. So the next thing you'll have to think about is, how are we going to communicate these results? A good quality program needs to have well-defined metrics. So are you going to capture financial opportunities? Are you going to provide a calibration metric? Are you going to focus specifically just on the number of reviews that you're doing? Or are you going to track like your top opportunities and see if they're getting bigger or fewer? So no matter which combination of metrics you decide on, it's a good idea to make sure that they're easy and simple and transparent, right? So one of the biggest mistakes that quality programs make is making these scoring models that are super complicated. If you can't explain the way that you're scoring your files or the way that you're measuring quality in less than a minute, then you're probably not going to get a lot of buy-in from people, because I guarantee you the first thing they're going to do is, when they get a report, is go and try to replicate those metrics and come up with the same number that you have. And if they're not able to do that easily, it's going to be really hard for them to buy into it. Leadership, again, really needs to determine the frequency of report outs on your quality data. So if you're doing quality every single month, are you going to have a monthly update, or are you only going to have a quarterly update? The leadership really should drive how often people are seeing these results. Another thing to keep in mind is that quality data, depending on how often you're reviewing it, is probably going to take a while to show trends. If you're only reviewing, a few hundred files every month, the data is going to be very, very reactive. So, a couple of files that maybe are not so good are going to have a huge impact, versus if you're doing thousands and thousands of reviews, it's only going to be a little blip. So that's one of the things to keep in mind when you're thinking about communicating your QA results. I already kind of touched on transparency, but probably the biggest thing that people forget with their quality program is the action planning and development. So people collect tons and tons of quality data. I'm sure many of your organizations are capturing a lot of quality data, but are they actually doing anything with it? Like, can you tell me today if your results are getting better or worse? And can you tell me what you're using the data for? So either they just capture the quality data and they let it sit there and do nothing, or they capture the quality data and they try to solve for every single problem as opposed to just focusing on a couple. The most successful quality programs are going to have a very robust way of tracking whether or not the quality in their organization is getting better, and they're going to be able to show the improvement through some metric, whether it be a financial metric or a customer satisfaction metric or a calibration metric, whatever it might be, to, I guess, increase awareness and buy-in that the quality program is not just there to capture data, that they're actually doing something with those results. Right. So probably the last question, but it almost always ends up being the first question, is how much will my quality program cost me? So there are tons of costs associated with the quality program. A lot of times people think that it's just technology, but really it's people, technology, training, travel, change management. There are a lot of things that encompass how much your quality program is going to cost. So having those clear goals and deliverables defined up front will really help you avoid unexpected costs. And, you know, you definitely don't have to have an expensive quality program in order to be effective. Really, the best thing that you can have is senior leadership on your side and defined goals. If you have those items, your costs will definitely align with the expectations that you are given. Let's see here. I think that is the end of my part of the presentation. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Terry, for just a few minutes here. He's going to talk a little bit about quality, and then we will open it up for questions if you want to start sending them in the chat. Terry?
Thanks, Julie. Hi, everyone. My name is Terry Casey, VP of Sales at Athenium. Julie had some really good things to think about there, and I do think having a goal and a strategy really off the top really helps with that. But we wanted to take 5 minutes to provide a brief overview of one of our new solutions, and that is a TeamThink Envoy. Some of you might have already heard of TeamThink Envoy. For those who haven't, in a nutshell, TeamThink Envoy is an industry-leading QA platform. It's really designed to streamline the overall QA process, really automate reports, allow for better insights and overall performance. And in the end, you know, it really automates the process, saves time, and eventually will save on the ROI and increase the ROI as well. So, you know, the other good thing with TeamThink Envoy is it's a web-based solution. It's hosted in the cloud. We do all the hosting, so it's very secure. And you can access it anywhere. As long as you have a computer, as long as you have a laptop and an internet connection, everyone is looking at the same files, everyone's looking at the same data, and the reports as well. If the data changes or the reports change, everyone will see those changes, which really streamlines the process, and really big on automation. You can pre-populate your data, which would really streamline it. And also, we talked about the metrics and the insights as well. Another really powerful part of Envoy and really the TeamThink platform is the reporting and the metrics. Everything rolls up to what we call a dashboard. Very easy to drill down and get additional information on root causes or issues that you might be having in your current QA process, or you're looking to revamp your QA process. Envoy comes in 3 main sections. The reporter, which is basically your work queue. The dashboard, we talked a little bit about that, and the reports and the ability to drill down and get additional information in reports. And also the administrator and the questionnaire builder. The administrator allows you to set up users and create permissions, and there's a questionnaire builder as well. And also you can create your own audits. What you're looking at here is the reporter, and this is your work queue. Everything, all the files within your process and your overall strategy are located in the reporter. There's a lot you can do with it. As I mentioned, you can pre-populate the data just to streamline that information. The questionnaire comes with Envoy, yes, no, and NA for scoring. There's a lot you can do with the reporter as well. You can attach files. So if there's damage for property or auto, you can attach those, comment flags, and additional information on that particular question. And if you're tracking root causes, tracking leakage, I should say, there's ability to do that as well. So that's just a brief overview on the reporter. Talked a little bit about the dashboard. This is where most people gravitate to. It really gives you an ability to drill down and get the information you need on, any issues, any root causes. We call these reports reportlets. As you can see, there's information on scores and leakage. You can drill down into departments or handlers, and then there's a pie chart, a scatter chart as well, to drill down and get more information on a particular issue or the root causes. You might feel like or know there's an issue, but your current process makes it very difficult to get the insights and get the metrics on what that issue might be. Envoy and the TeamThink platform in general makes it extremely easy to do that because it automates the whole process. And just briefly, I want to talk about, we have a lot of companies using the TeamThink platform. Envoy was created from that platform, and TeamThink, as Julie mentioned, a lot of companies are using that today and have been for the last 10 or 15 years. And most of the people and companies that we deal with that use a TeamThink are either frustrated with their existing tool, they're looking to revamp their QA process, and improve the ability to, grab those insights and grab the metrics so, the performance will increase and the overall process and the goals will increase as well. So I'll stop there, and we'll set aside some time for any questions that you may have.